More than 100,000 Maryland residents will now have cannabis-related convictions pardoned after Governor Wes Moore signed an executive order yesterday. The order wipes the slate for 175,000 marijuana convictions and makes Maryland the first state in America to issue mass pardons on cannabis paraphernalia-related charges. Maryland legalized recreational marijuana back in 2023 after the state legislature passed a constitutional amendment on that. And Maryland Governor Wes Moore joins us now. He's also a member of the Biden-Harris campaign's National Advisory Board. So thank you so much for joining us. This is historic. Tell us first of all, about the mass pardons. Who is this going to impact and why you did it?
You know, we did it because this is about both moral justice and economic justice. And the reason I bring up both of those two things is, you know, Maryland voted that we should have a recreational cannabis market. In fact, we voted by a 70% margin that we were going to have a recreational cannabis market. So my administration has been working over the past 18 months and rolling out what many believe to be the most equitable and the smoothest rollout that we've seen of a cannabis rollout inside of our state. We have 174 new social equity licenses, people who now have the ability to sell legally cannabis, but also we know, which is again a historic number. But at the same time, we know this: you cannot talk about the benefits of legalization if you're not willing to wrestle with the consequences of criminalization. That we still had we still had tens of thousands, over 100,000 people who still had cannabis charges. And so when we say from a moral perspective, you cannot continue to have people who have records for something that is now legal and a multi-billion-dollar industry, having an ability to get jobs, having an ability to go to school, an ability to get a home. Right. And at the same time, it's an economic imperative, where I was with someone named Shiloh yesterday, for example, who for years has had a misdemeanor cannabis charge that has not allowed him to keep steady work. He got one job, and he was fired on the second day because he didn't pass a background check because of a misdemeanor cannabis charge, something that is now legal. And so this was really important, not just economically for the state. It was really important for the individuals who received the gubernatorial pardon. But also, this was really important when it came to taking a moral course for how Maryland was going to operate and how Maryland was going to lead.
Hey, Governor, Sam Stein here. I was going to ask you about Maggie Rogers and Maggie Rogers Day in Maryland. I saw the video of it, but we're going to stick on topic for the point today. Obviously, what
she's a good Maryland girl.
Yes, she is, Eastern Shore. Look, what you're doing in Maryland, obviously, on marijuana is, to a degree, something that the Biden administration has tried to do nationally, which is just essentially lower the temperature around it, get rid of the harsh penalties for use of cannabis. But I'm wondering, as you take these proactive steps to normalize, essentially, cannabis use, is there more that the feds can and should be doing on that front as well? Not just decriminalization, but looking more towards the legalization elements.
Yes, and I applaud the Biden-Harris administration because they've been able to do things that have been really important to this cause, like moving cannabis from a Schedule I to a Schedule III drug. There's no reason that something like cannabis should have had the same classification as heroin. Another synthetic drugs. And so that was actually an important step about the way that society looks at it, and also urging governors to be able to take this look. And the thing that I would continue to tell people is, if you're wondering whether or not you should do this, if you're wondering whether or not this should happen in your states, I would say this: listen to your people. Listen to what they're telling you. Keep your ear close to the ground, because that's exactly what we did in the state of Maryland. When we put it up for a referendum, we saw overwhelmingly that the people of our state wanted this done. When we were pulling together this package to have now what is the largest mass pardon in U.S. history for cannabis, for misdemeanor cannabis charges, we actually brought everybody around the table. We had law enforcement, and we had activists, that we had community members, and we had people who were involved in business and in the industry. Everybody had a seat at the table. So for anyone wondering how you go about doing this or whether or not this is a good thing, I think you should do what we did in Maryland. Listen to your people, and they'll tell you what the right direction to go in is.
Governor, Michael Steele here. It's good to see you again, sir. I hope everything's going well for you.
Good to see you, LG.
Yes, indeed. This effort is unique, and as you said, on so many fronts. I have a two-parter for you, real quick. The first is, what other safeguards, in addition to opening up the cannabis market in Maryland, 174 new licenses, for example, what other safeguards or steps has the state taken to introduce this market in a safe way? Because there are still families and communities that are concerned about this expansion of cannabis. This effort to clear those records is applauded and supported, but there's also the other side of it. So there's that. And the other piece is the celebration that all Marylanders had when you declared the harbor open and the Key Bridge project underway. Talk a little bit about where things are with that effort as well. So you've got these twin episodes in your administration which really stand out and stand up, I guess, in many ways, your leadership. So talk about how you're addressing these two divergent moments for your administration.
Thank you so much, LG. And yeah, when it came down to really roll out the new cannabis market, we knew that it needed to be transparent, it needed to be safe, it needed to be fair. And those were the guidelines that we looked at. And so in addition to making sure that we had real safety guidelines, and this was part of the whole point of actually regulating it, and when you're turning into a recreational market, is part of the challenge you had with the illegal market was you had people who had no idea what they're actually getting. You had people who had no idea what was actually inside the materials. By being able to do this in a proper way, by being able to do it in a controlled way, you're actually able to take part of the revenue and actually move it towards safety criteria, move it towards support systems for families. You're able to actually do creative things with ways that can help it to be not just a more accepted, but a safer way of integration into society. And then also we had a clear focus on providing access to capital to people as they were trying to enter into the industry. Part of the challenge we've always had, not just with cannabis, but with a collection of different industries, has been the initial tranche capital, right? The friends and family round. And the thing is, we know that not everybody has the same friends and not everybody has the same family. And so by being able to add access to capital to that frame was a way of helping to make sure that we can have an equitable distribution in the way that we looked at the cannabis rollout. And I appreciate the words about the opening of the Port of Baltimore. You're right. I mean, I remember that first morning when at 2:02, my phone rang. And we saw that there was a ship that was the size of the Eiffel Tower that was now caught in the Patapsco River with tens of thousands of tons of steel and water. And I asked people to say, how long is this going to take? And people were telling us this could take up to a year. And I said, it can't. I got tens of thousands of port workers. I cannot tell them this is going to take a year to get them back on the job. And so people worked around the clock. And I'm so thankful for the measure of coordination, for how the private sector stepped up, the federal government stepped up, the state coordinated with all these various units, and what they told us was going to take 11 months, we got done in 11 weeks. And the Port of Baltimore is back and moving right now, and it's a beautiful sight.
All right, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, thank you. Good luck against the Yankees tonight.
Go O's.
Thanks for being on the show this
morning.
morning.
Go O's. Go O's.
All right.